Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's talk about something ancient, the Ten Commandments. How on earth can a 3,000-year-old moral code be a practical guide for our lives right now in the digital age? Well, we're going to dive into a sermon that does just that. It reframes these rules for today.
All right, so we're zeroing in on the final 6 of the 10 Commandments. You know, the ones that are all about how we treat each other. It's easy to look at these and just see a big list of don'ts, right? But the source material we're digging into today, it totally flips that idea on its head. It sees them as a powerful guide for building better relationships and, honestly, a healthier society.
So let's get right into it. What's the big deal with these 6 rules? Well, what makes them so special is that they're not just about abstract theology. Nope. They get right down to the nitty-gritty, the practical stuff of how we interact with each other every single day. They're basically the foundational code for how we're supposed to treat one another.
Yeah, see, the first 4 commandments, they're all about one's relationship with God. But these last 6, they are intensely practical. You could almost call them a kind of social contract, a user's manual for creating a community that actually works, one that's functional, fair, and, humane.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting. I mean, how do these ancient rules about physical actions, how do they even apply to our world today? A world that's completely dominated by digital interactions and, let's be honest, all sorts of new psychological challenges.
So the source makes this powerful argument that murder isn't just a physical act anymore. In our age, you can absolutely destroy a person's reputation. You can end their career. You can wreck their mental health, all without ever laying a single hand on them. Just think about it. Cyberbullying, doxing, spreading hate speech online. These are presented as modern ways of, well, killing someone's spirit or their place in the world.
And stealing, what about that one? The idea has just exploded beyond grabbing someone's physical property. Today, we're talking about digital piracy, stealing intellectual property, or even something the sermon calls stealing time. Getting paid for a full day's work when you're not actually doing it. At its core, it's all about a fundamental lack of integrity.
Now, do not covet. Man, this might just be the most relevant commandment for the social media age, right? Every single time we scroll, we're bombarded with these perfectly curated highlight reels of everyone else's lives, their amazing vacations, their huge successes, all their new stuff. And what does that do? It can fuel this really toxic cycle of comparison and envy and this deep, gnawing dissatisfaction with our own lives.
Okay, so after all that, the sermon does something kind of radical. It proposes a massive simplification. It asks, what if these 6 different rules aren't separate ideas at all? What if they're just different sides of the same coin, different facets of one single incredibly powerful principle?
So what is the big idea? What's the one concept that could possibly tie all of this together? Everything from murder all the way to envy?
And here it is. This is the core, the central thesis of the entire argument. Every single one of those do-nots, don't harm, don't steal, don't lie, they're all just practical applications of this one single positive command.
So you see, the crucial point here is this incredible reframe. The commandments suddenly aren't just a boring list of things you can't do. Instead, they become a positive mandate, a call to action for how to actively engage with the world. It's a call to treat other people with the exact same care, respect, and consideration that we naturally automatically give to ourselves. And building on that one core rule, the sermon then pulls out 3 principles that can totally shift our mindset. I'm talking about changing how we see other people, how we see our own talents, and even our place in the world. And this leads us to a really practical framework, one that's built on 3 core ideas: interconnection, humility, and mercy. Think of these as guideposts for our interactions, designed to help break us out of our natural, default setting of self-centeredness. Okay, first up, we have to start seeing ourselves not as competitors in some big race, but as essential parts of the same body. I mean, the hand doesn't get jealous of the foot because it gets to walk, right? Of course not. It knows they both have to work together for the good of the whole. And it's the same with us. Somebody else's success or their talent, it doesn't take anything away from us. It actually contributes to the strength of the entire community.
Second, there's the principle of humility. The source argues that our talents, the resources we have, even our intelligence, none of it is something we earned completely on our own. They're gifts. And what's the purpose of a gift? It's not just to hoard it for yourself.
It's meant to be used for the good of everyone, for the whole community.
And third, and this is a big one, show mercy. Let's be real, every single one of us is flawed. We all mess up, we're all going to need grace and forgiveness at some point. And since we know we need it for ourselves, we have to be willing to extend that same mercy to other people, even when it's hard, even when they seem, unlovable. It's about recognizing that we're all in this together, that shared humanity.
So, what's the end game here? If we actually adopt this framework, what kind of world are we trying to build? What's the ultimate point of living by these rules anyway?
Well, to help us rethink this whole idea of rules, the sermon uses this really fascinating analogy. It asks us to think about the nation of Singapore.
Now, if you're an outsider looking in, Singapore can seem like a place with endless rules and fines, right? Don't chew gum, don't litter, don't do this, don't do that. It sounds almost oppressive, but if you talk to people who live there, they'll tell you that those very rules create an environment that is incredibly clean, super safe, and built on a foundation of mutual trust. So the rules aren't just about stopping bad behavior, they're actively cultivating a better society.
And that just brilliantly illustrates the final point. These commandments, when you look at them through this lens of love your neighbor, they're not about restricting our freedom at all. They're a blueprint for creating the kind of conditions where a whole community and every single person in it can truly, genuinely flourish.
Which kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. It's a challenge, really, to look at any ethical code, not just as a list of things we're not allowed to do, but as a shared vision. A blueprint for the kind of world we actually want to build, together. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.